It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe is a dark, psychologically disturbing story. The narrator and main character gives his account on what happened in the past. As the story unravels, we find out that he wanted to kill his master. He came up with a plan and everything. The question is, does he go through with it? The narrator is the first to talk. True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why, will you say, that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of a hearing, acute. I heard all things in heaven and on earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye, with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night about midnight I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh, so gently. And then when I made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a lantern, all closed, so no light shone out, and then I thrust my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust in it. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head through the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it, and so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night, just at midnight, but I found the eye was always closed, so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber, and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see he would have been a very profound old man, indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute had moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. I think that there I was, opening the door, little by little, and not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now, you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was black as pitch with the darkness, and I knew that he could not see the opening of the door. I kept pushing it on it steadily. I had my head in and about to open the lantern, when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quiet and still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in bed, listening, just as I had done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches of the wall. Presently I heard a slight groan, and knew it was the groan of the mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or grief. Oh, no. It was a low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with an awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight when the world slept, it was welled up from inside my own bosom, deepening. It was the dreadful echo of terrors that distracted me. I say, I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt, and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew what he had been lying awake after night since the first slight noise when he had turned in his bed. His fears had never since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but a windy chimney. It is not only a mouse crossing the floor, or it is merely a cricket which made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with those suspicions, but he had found all in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked his black shadow before him and developed the victim. But it was the mournful influence of the unperceivable shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it, and cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like a thread of a spider, shot in the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it, and chilled the very marrow of my bones. But I could not see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I directed the ray as if instinct precisely upon the damned spot. And have I not told you what you make your mistake for madness is but over acute of senses? Now I say, there came my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as watch makes the wind enveloped in cotton. I knew the sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of the drum stimulates a soldier into courage. But even yet I refrained to keep still. I scarcely breathed. I held my lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. I grew quicker and quicker, and louder, very instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder. I say louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of the old house, so strange a noise as it excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet some minutes longer I refrained and stood still, but the beating grew louder and louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound with my heart of a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell I threw open the lantern and leaped in the room. He shrieked once, only once. In an instant I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him, then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes the heart beat on a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more.